You get another microphone on this stand, right? This is like that the card right there, right? You're both the game, or you're piling the things on top. Django. How's everybody doing? Fantastic. You having fun yet? Day one, you're not exhausted? I haven't been on day three. I can't imagine what it'd be like day three. Everybody coming like.
Coach, one of the biggest controversies this past year has been the players receiving a lot of money from people they shouldn't be. And now, what is your position on if players can have part-time jobs while they're student athletes?
I think it's great. I think the hard thing is you're looking at the time constraints. For these young guys to go out and make money. Our players are all in summer school. They take summer school classes. Throughout the year, you're looking at 20-hour-a-week rule in football. Well, okay, if you take a regular student on campus, so they work 20 hours a week at a part-time job, that's probably a pretty big strain on their life. And even in the off season, when you get to those time constraints, I think it's very, very difficult for these guys to have part-time jobs and jobs outside of football with where the game is today. And the sad part, and I know a lot of that comes up with the pay for play, and should these guys get this, and I understand, the much, much bigger picture, which is, I could give you 30 guys on our football team that they would need that to be able to go out and get a pizza. They don't get $20 a week sent from their parents, so they have, they can go out and get a hamburger with other college kids on campus. They don't have that. I mean, they get stuff. If they get a Pell Grant check, they send it home. I had guys on our team, and an interesting question I ask, when you say, oh, what do they get for bowl games? Well, guys get gift cards. Well, a lot of guys on our team this year request Walmart gift cards so they could buy supplies so they'd have food for Christmas dinner at their house. But then when you relate that story on some guys, and then you look at, all athletes across the board, maybe it doesn't equate that way, and so, it doesn't make sense. But I think those are some of the challenges of finding out, when you look at cost of attendance, to allow a young man that's a football player that has nothing, that got a ride to campus with one duffel bag and shows up there and says, here I am. And how's he going to go out? Think back when you were 19 or 20 years old and four of your friends in college say, hey, we're going to go get a pizza tonight. You want to come down? And, hey, we're ordering pizza. Do you want one? And you're like, no. Well, what's wrong? You want to say, well, I can't afford it. I can't afford to go out and get a hamburger or a pizza. That's what's tough, and that's where I think all of this comes from, is making sure that there is, these kids do have spending money. Now, there's a very different spectrum between kids getting large sums of money from illegal sources and kids having spending money in their pocket.
But to answer something like that, Coach, I'm a father of a daughter from your former university.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. She's in graduate school, allowed with a part-time job, versus a student, that's trying to do something like that the legal way, but cannot accept a gift, an honest gift from someone.
Yeah. Well, I think that's tough, but we educate our guys that, I'll tell you what you don't hear. I don't think you hear articles. You don't read a lot of articles that someone went to Subway and someone bought him a sub for lunch. You're not hearing those type of stories come out in college football. It's an outside source. It's a third-party person, that has no affiliation or does have an affiliation in the university, but it's not a student, not on campus, not doing one of those things. I think that's where some of the issue comes in, and I think a lot of it gets back to recruiting. And the biggest part of some of this are the people that too many outside sources getting in. When you have a high school coach who has an athletic interest in the young man, you have high school counselors and principals and teachers that have an academic interest in the young man, and you have a family that obviously has their complete personal interest in a young man. Once you get beyond that, that's who needs to be involved in the recruiting process. When you start getting into outside sources, well, what's their investment? What's their need in the young man? And I think that's what makes it difficult, and I think that's where the direction and the reform in college football is coming, is trying to limit these outside people and third parties getting their hands on these young kids.
So the SEC Media Days, you speak for every year. You have all this technology, Facebook, Twitter. Is it hard to be yourself? Is it you want to keep your guard up more because everything is analyzed minute by minute?
I think it is, but there's, I try to separate perception and reality. I live in my own reality, even though certainly about all of us, there's a perception of each one of us out there, and you can't do that. We explain with our guys. Social media, I think it's really neat. I mean, it's fun. I'll get emails or a note from, a teacher that I had in third grade of saying, hey, it's really neat to see you succeeding. And without that stuff, they'd never track you down, I guess. But, I view it as something, it does take away really any of your personal life. I view this, being in this room and what I say and what I do in this room, the same as what I would say and what I would do if I go out to dinner with my wife, because there's chances are someone's got a phone and someone's videotaping you eating dinner, and they'd love to put out watching me spill spaghetti all down my shirt or something like that, So I think it's just in today's society, you view that, someone's always going to see everything that you're doing in life.
Coach, talk about expectations with this team this year. A little different than the following years.
Yeah, the expectations changed outside the program. Inside, it's the same. Our goal, when I got 2 years ago, my first SEC Media Dash, our goal is to win the SEC West, and everybody kind of be like, that's funny, but that hasn't changed. Our expectation today is the same as it was then, that we have to find a way to win the SEC West. That's what we can control. And anything beyond that is a bonus. We get invited to bowl games. You get invited to play for a national championship. You don't control that just because, you could be undefeated and not play for a national title. And, so you worry about what you can control, and that's to win the West. And so the expectations, I think, within our meeting room, within our team, have not changed. I think personal expectations of players have, because they think they're a lot better now than they were a couple years ago. I can tell you Chris Relf's expectations of himself in this season are much higher than they would have been 2 years ago, because he understands the program, the game, and how he is as a player. But the expectations of our program have not changed.
3 games in 14
Last
days
question.
to start the season. I know you're going to tell me those first 2 games are important, but a lot of people already looking at that Thursday night home opener against LSU. Tell me what you're expecting out of that.
That'd be great. I'd love it to be a big game. I would love for that to be a big game. And for that to become a big game, we got to hold up our end of the bargain and find a way to win our first 2 games, and they got to hold up their end of the bargain, win their first 2 games, and we'll have a big-time showdown on a Thursday night. But, for us, we have to take care of business. And, it starts, you got game 1 on a Thursday night, come back and play the defending national champions. So not an easy way to start your season. And, and then 5 days after the defending national champion, you play with a team that a lot of people are predicting to win the national championship this year. But that's life in the SEC, and that's why it's the best conference in college football. We'll know pretty early. We will certainly know pretty early if we're a contender or not.